So now that we got started open source, this might be obvious, but these are going to be the top tools to use while doing open source. Now, first off, I'm just going to jump right in and say GitHub. You probably are using GitHub, but what I'm going to recommend is using GitHub to the next level. There's so many things you do on GitHub that you're probably not already doing. So when I first got into open source, I didn't know how to write issues. I didn't even know issues was a thing because the job I worked at, they didn't use issues. They used Jira tickets, and then we used Jira tickets to then create pull requests. And it was a whole convoluted way, but highly recommend learn how to use GitHub issues, learn how to link issues, go to their documentation. Within OpenSauced, we have a lot of automations and GitHub Actions as well. Use DevOps, use GitHub Actions to automate the things you don't want to do. And that's a great first contribution when you start doing some of that automation for our maintainers and their code bases. So going back to the growth stage projects, the up and coming projects, try your hand at making developer experience so much better. I had a conversation with one of the maintainers at Python, the Python fellows, and her intro into contributing to the CPython was actually building developer experience bots. How do you automate the process of getting people to review? How do you automate the process of doing testing or setting up your environment? Those are all real good first contributions that you can definitely check out. So we talked about GitHub, get better at GitHub. The second thing is Git. There's so many tools you can do to unbreak your environment. So get dirty with Git. I know there's some other tools like VS Code, which I do recommend VS Code, and that would be my third tool in a second. But with Git, you can understand how the version control works. So get your hands dirty and use Git. Now, finally, I want to mention VS Code. And VS Code is something that I know everyone has a different editor. I know there's JetBrains and there's, I was going to say Atom, RIP, but VS Code is such an extensive editor. There's so many plugins and so much community extensions that help you expand your knowledge base. So rather than try to learn Git directly from the command line, a lot of folks, they lean on VS Code because they do a lot of stuff out of the box. So running a server, connecting with Azure functions, all that stuff is at your fingertips with this community, which is VS Code. Now, one bonus thing, I know we said 3 tips, but bonus is always going to be OpenSauced. If you haven't connected your GitHub repo, if you haven't connected your GitHub account, definitely do it today. Click that connect to GitHub button. Check out where your contributions are going. If you're doing any contributions, and if you're not, we'll recommend you stuff. So check it out and stay saucy.